Hi, I'm Aaron and I'm in the kitchen, and today I am making the most simple meatloaf you can throw together when you don't feel like cooking anything. How do I know? Because I throw this together when I don't feel like cooking anything. There are two ways to make this. One way requires you to not cook anything at all outside of the oven, and one way requires you to cook just a little bit outside of the oven. Today I caramelized my garlic and my onions. I've done that a billion times on the channel. I don't think you guys need to see that. But this recipe can be done with the caramelized, pre-cooking it in the oven, or without, okay? You want to preset your oven to 175 degrees Celsius. That is 350 Fahrenheit. Because I already talked about my garlic and my onions being caramelized, those are going to be the first things that I throw in the bowl. If you have the extra time and you feel like doing that extra step, you can caramelize these. But if you don't feel like caramelizing these and you just want to mash everything together and throw everything inside of the oven and let the oven do all of the work, that's fine. You can leave the onions and the garlic raw, but your meatloaf is going to have like a spicier bite to it. The caramelizing it is going to give it a little bit of a sweeter taste. It's going to kill the bite on the onions and the garlic, but you really don't have to. But what I would say is an absolute must, especially if you don't feel like caramelizing the garlic and the onions, is to chop up your onions super duper fine, or use a food processor and get them super duper finely done to where they meld in with your ground meat. Today I'm using a mixture of beef and pork. I'm using 1,000 grams. Peeling the panties off of my meat. All right, going in with 60 grams of panko breadcrumbs. Going in with 100 grams of heavy cream and 2 large eggs. Oh, see a little bit of shell in there. Glad I caught that.
It would add a small crunch to it.
It would have added a little crunch to that, yes. Going in with a teaspoon of salt. Going in with a teaspoon of steak seasoning. A teaspoon of Slap Your Mama. I know I can't be the only one that opens up my seasoning like this, right? Teaspoon of Tony's. Teaspoon of ground ginger. 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce.
Worcestershire sauce.
2 tablespoons of ketchup. All right. Right on the money there. I have a spatula here only because it was in my garlic and my onions, but we're gonna do this all by hand. You don't have to do it by hand if you are sensitive to textures, but I personally like it, so I'm going to stick my hands in there. The last ingredient going into our meatloaf is 150 grams of goat cheese. I like doing this by hand just because I can make sure that my cheese is well mixed up and incorporated in here, and I don't really think you can do that with the spoon. But I do have to admit, if you have like sensory sensitivity, this might be a bit weird. Because you have the warmth from the onions and the garlic, and then the meat's cold and the cheese is cold, so it feels nice. Don't really think you can do that with a spoon. You know what? I forgot an ingredient. I'm gonna have to ask Mr. Cameraman to help me out and put that ingredient in, but I'm sure he will cut himself out in this moment. I need the white pepper. Okay, Mr. Cameraman helped me out. He put a tablespoon of black pepper into our mixture here. I was looking for the white pepper, but we couldn't find it, so We put black pepper in. This is gonna go in the oven for 50 minutes at 175, which is 350 Fahrenheit. Usually I make my meatloaf in 2 different loaf pans, but today I'm just gonna make one really big one. This is tonight's dinner. I don't know if my fiance's ever seen me make just one really big one like this. Somehow I'm doubting that. But we will eat good tonight. Okay, I'm just gonna give my hands a wash before I move on. Okay, now that we have our meatloaf pretty much made, we're gonna go ahead and work on our glaze. Pretty simple glaze here. We're just going in with more ketchup. 2 more tablespoons of ketchup here. A teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. My mustard over here. I am using German hot dog stand mustard or sausage stand mustard, but feel free to use any mustard that you like for this. Dijon works really well. Honey mustard also works really well in this. These 3 ingredients. I think I'm gonna add a little bit of brown sugar to this. Going in with a tablespoon of brown sugar, maybe 2. And because I don't wanna keep accumulating dishes, I'm gonna mix this all with the brush that I'm gonna baste the sauce on with. So I'm gonna give the sauce a little taste here. That's nice. That's really nice, but I want more ketchup. Going in with another tablespoon of ketchup here. Ooh, that's right. So that was 3 tablespoons of ketchup, 2 tablespoons of mustard, 1 teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, and 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Now in 50 minutes, we're gonna have a super tender and delicious meatloaf. See you all when I'm done. Okay, so we're all out of the oven and I'm ready to taste. I'm going for the darker side because I want that caramelly flavor. And you know that it is super tender. You see how I'm cutting this with my spatula? Just sliding straight down. Oh, it's gonna be so good. This is our dinner, so I'm not gonna spoil our dinner with my taste test here. Whew.
God damn.
The smell is out of this world. Insane. And I'm getting every bit of this up. Going in on this. Let's see what we did. Let's see what we're working with here. Let me make sure I eat the whole thing just in case somebody thinks I'm the McDonald's CEO or something. I hope you guys enjoyed what you saw. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all next time. Ciao.